When I first started teaching high school English, and I would go to parent-teacher conferences, I would regularly be met with a parent who looks something like this. And they were really frustrated. They wanted to know how to get their kids to read. They would say, he just doesn't like books and I don't know what to do with him. And I, in my 21-year-old wisdom, would say, they just need to read more. I'm sure if they read more, they will learn to love reading. And the parent would interpret that as, I should lock him in his room with a book and he'll learn to love to read. It turns out that we don't actually learn to love reading that way. In fact, we learn to not love it. And so as I've gotten older and have more teaching experience and have children of my own, these are my 3 here who are all middle schoolers, I've learned that there are some strategies that we can do to help kids really learn to love reading. But it starts early and it starts often. My 3 do love books, but it's been an ongoing process of helping them to get to that point. I think first it starts early. As soon as that child comes home from the hospital, I think they should be read to as often as possible. They should be talked to. They should learn to love language. Even when you're pregnant, use that belly as a book prop and read to it because it really helps kids to begin to learn to love books. I think you need to gather them up in your arms and give them snuggles and help them to learn to associate reading with love and with warmth and relaxation so that books become a really positive thing really early. And don't feel like you have to read the whole book, ask them questions, be silly, use voices, really make reading come alive because you want to get that positive association. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking toddlers will not sit still to be read to, and you're absolutely right. That's okay. Let them get down, let them wander away. They'll come back. The goal is really just to develop a positive association with books and to have lots of opportunities to read. Part of that is being completely surrounded by books in your house. I would say have piles of them in the living room, have bookshelves next to their beds, have a bookshelf in the bathroom if you want to. Make sure that if a kid gets bored, there are books around for them to pick up. And sometimes that might mean limiting screens so that books don't have to compete with them, Make a book the easy, fun option that's always available. This is my youngest. She's a squirrely bird, especially as a toddler, and I used boredom to my advantage. I made sure that when she got bored, there were always books around, and she eventually learned to love them. You also want to absolutely love your library. Be the crazy person that brings, multiple bags or even a laundry basket to the library to bring home your books. Lots and lots of different genres, high quality picture books. As soon as you can trust your kids to not tear pages, I would say bring home those books. Now, you are going to owe your library some money. They're going to be overdue books. They're going to be lost books. They're going to be torn pages. But for me, I think it's a small price to pay. If over time I create a reader, I'm more than happy to give my library a little bit of extra tax money through those fines. It's worth it. The other thing that we found at our library was audiobooks. I think as soon as kids can start having the attention span to listen to an audiobook, we ought to incorporate them into our routines. So nap time, rides in the car. For my kids, they started at about age 3. When they start to want to give up that nap time, that's when I brought on the audiobooks for a nice quiet time. For us, old phones were our listening devices, so we would download books to those old phones and then let them listen there. In fact, my oldest, when he was about 3, developed this really funny British accent. And people would meet him and say, "Oh, did you spend some time overseas?" And we'd say, no. He just listens to audiobooks, a lot of them, and they all have British narrators. But along the way, he developed a really great vocabulary that continues to serve him, and a love of language and a love of stories. And I think audiobooks were a big part of that, learning to love ideas. The other thing is making sure that we value all reading. Sometimes we have a tendency to value stories and fiction over other types of reading, and we don't want to do that. We want to value newspapers and magazines and nonfiction. All reading is good reading, and we want to celebrate all of that reading. Now, I will warn you, this means that kids will read in genres that you don't love. In my case, it's fantasy. This is all my children love this book, and I just can't make it through it. But that's okay. My goal is to help them develop their personalities as readers. And so we have conversations about the book. We celebrate the book, even if it's something that I wouldn't pick. That also extends to magazines. There are some great high quality magazines for kids, even as young as toddlers. And we want to value that. We want to have those in our house and make them a part of what we do every day. Now, the other thing is we want to make sure that we are letting kids see us read on a regular basis. There's a tendency for us to pick up tablets and to pick up phones, and we may be reading on them, but they don't look like books. So I would say use some traditional books on a regular basis so that your kids understand that you read. That what you're doing when you're relaxing at night is you're picking up a book, you're picking up an idea. What you'll find is that even if you're starting later, don't despair. There's still a lot of things that you can do to help your kids become readers, but a lot of it is cultural. You're putting books around, you're talking about books, you're celebrating books as a family. The goal being that it becomes just a part of your family norms, that we talk about books, we share ideas, we debate ideas, we love books, and that in turn is going to help kids become better readers. If we can do these 6 things, I think we're going to see some pretty significant shifts in how much kids are able to read and how much they actually love reading and ideas. We want to start them early, completely surround them with books. Be sure that we're loving our library and visiting it often, using audiobooks as a part of our daily routine, valuing all reading, and letting them see us read on a regular basis. If we can do that, we're going to develop lifelong learners, and that is an incredible gift. Thank you.